Prior to today's ride, I've been out of my DR-Z4S for a few days and I've put about 270 miles on it. So now we're going to switch back to my DR-Z4S and talk about its front tire compared to the MT21 that I've been running on my DR-Z400S since I bought the bike back in 2006.
This is still the factory tire. In terrain like this, we've got a lot of loose dirt, a little bit of gravel strewn about, and some ruts. The rounded profile of this tire and the more street biased tread pattern means that it doesn't track quite as true and straight. It is having a tendency to wander just a little bit in some of this looser stuff, especially in the gravel. Because I've been riding enough years and have all that experience to go behind my riding style, I will adapt to the capabilities of this front tire and slow down as needed. But I may end up switching this tire out sooner than I had initially thought about doing. When I first got the bike, did a bunch of pavement miles, and then did 3 days of dirt riding, I thought, this front tire, it's totally fine at the moment. But now that the season has progressed a little bit and these roads have gotten a massive amount of traffic due to two different motorcycle related events in this area, my opinion on changing the front tire has changed a little bit. And that's because with all of that traffic, the road conditions have changed a lot in some areas. And this hard packed stuff, the more traffic it gets, it actually turns into loose talcum powder style moon dust. And you might go through 2 or 3 inches of just loose moon dust, like literally like moon dust, talcum powder, or whatever. And through that stuff, the tire can get a little skittish. I just popped through a little short section back there of loose dirt. Didn't have any issues though, and in the bottoms of some of these ruts I can see that there's a lot of loose dirt piled up. The rear tire is totally fine, at least for doing Forest Service roads. It might be okay on some mild single track, but if I were to get into some stuff that was also really loose and needed better traction, like going uphill, then I would totally probably hate this rear tire from the factory. But for the majority of the type of riding I do, the rear tire is going to be totally fine. I've got a little over 1,000 miles on the bike right now. Okay, so we tried to wash out right there. There's a lot of loose dirt in that corner, just this side of that busted up, fallen down tree. So we're running up a section that I've been up probably 10 times this season. It has gotten progressively worse in the last 3 weeks, and it is completely littered with sharp, jaggedy rocks that have rolled down off the hillside and gotten kicked all over the road. Plus, it is now really loose, and this front tire is all over the place in this loose stuff. So I'm just taking a mild, moderate pace going through this stuff to avoid any issues. This is about a 3 mile or so long ascent up to the top of the ridge. Still have that front tire going all over the place. It may not be as bad if I were to lower the air pressure some, but I don't want to deal with things that can happen with lower air pressure. The tire is manageable, you just have to know what its limitations are, and I've kind of gotten a pretty good feel for that. Now that I've got over 1,000 miles on the bike, like I mentioned earlier. We're in third gear now, let's try that for a little ways. Yeah, that's like 2 inches of loose dirt for most of this. But the rear tire, totally fine. Yeah, I can feel it maybe spin just a little bit, but I've got the traction control in gravel mode, so that's totally compensating for any issues. And that traction control, that's like a cheat button. The suspension is soaking this up a lot better than it does on my old DR-Z. Yeah, there's a lot more smoke up that direction today. A little bit of cloud cover as well. And the bike is like tractor mode. It will lug down really good and still pull me through stuff. So I'm in second gear doing about 14 miles an hour. We can grab a handful of throttle and it doesn't care, it just goes. You have to be really, really trying hard to make this bike flame out, and I have not been able to do that yet in the various testing that I've put it through. I do like my 1544 sprocket combination a lot better than the 1543. It's super rocky and just loose. Ah. It's just a massive amount of motorcycle traffic to go up and down this road. Not only because of the 2 events that go on over here, but you've got access to multiple trail systems by coming up this road. So by midsummer, which is the middle of July right now, this road is completely chewed up. Whoa! Earlier in the season, I can carry a faster pace going up this road because it's likely still damp from the snow melt and not as torn up and basically more hard packed after the winter. Let's see how long we can get away with third gear. And we're almost at the top. I would still say that ride mode C is pretty comparable to power delivery and throttle response and tractability and rideability as my 02 400. And other than 2 different times of having it in ride mode A, I've had it in ride mode C for all of this time. So if I want more oomph and more get up and go, I'd switch it to either B or A. So with that in mind, I just don't really see the need to spend any money on performance mods. Because that just drives up the overall cost of ownership that much more when you factor in that as is, the DR-Z is a pretty expensive dual sport bike. But you got to look at it this way too, it's rideable right out of the box. And I say that mainly in reference to the CR450 or CRF 450 R, L, and L. Everything I've read and heard from people that have bought that bike says that you basically have to buy a tuner, a reprogrammer, or ECU flash to make the bike even somewhat rideable in technical low speed stuff, because otherwise it just flat out flames out. Yeah, we're still in third gear, just tractoring along. I do also like how quiet the exhaust is. I've mentioned that numerous times. So we're just lugged right out of that corner. I was at about 18 miles an hour when I looked down to see how slow I was going, because I was just about to the point of needing to shift down. And realistically, I probably should have. And speaking of shifting and transmission and gearing and all of that good stuff, because I've had a DR-Z400 for so many years, I've grown accustomed to which gear is usable in various conditions and situations. And that was why I switched to a 44 tooth rear sprocket. In my 1,000-mile review video, I mentioned that I kept hunting between second and third in certain situations, or between third and fourth. And having owned a DR-Z for so many years, just knowing what works when, for gearing wise and speed and terrain and everything, it just wasn't, I wasn't adapting to that 43 tooth rear sprocket at all. Just didn't like it. So with that 43 tooth rear, I would say I was going along in second gear on this particular road. I would get to the point where I would want to hit third, but then third was just a little tad too high when I needed to slow down for a corner like this. So I'd go back down into the second. Well, then I get to a more straight section like this, and I'd be back into third, or this section here, it's more like third and fourth. So I am almost at the point of wanting to shift into fourth. But third is good because we got to slow down for some of these sweeping turns and whatnot. And then we'll go fourth. We can use fourth at least for a little ways until we come up to blind corners. So I guess that probably is about as good a description as I can give on the 43 versus 44 tooth rear sprocket. We'll just ramble about that a little bit more as we go. So I'm almost ready for fourth. With a 43 tooth, I would have been in fourth, but then fourth is usable for so little of the time due to the varying terrain, the turns, the undulating conditions of the road, that I'd be back down in third. But then I'd hit a point where I was a little bit too fast for third, so I'd want fourth. But then again, fourth was only usable for a very short segment, where right now I'm in third gear, and third gear is perfect for the range of speed that I'm going. And that was the same with second gear when we talk about shifting between second and third a lot. So basically it put the RPMs and the speed back into the sweet spot for each given gear, for my riding technique, my riding style, my level of experience, my level of comfort going a given speed on a given road condition like this. It's all beat up, it's really loose. So I could be in fourth for that at the other gearing. Well, I should say I'd be more or less going between second and third there, and then I'd have to shift down to second for that little corner. And now I've just shifted into fourth because I've got better visibility. The road is more or less level, a longer sight line. I do feel that this suspension is just a little bit firmer than my old DR-Z. I haven't done any suspension adjustments on this. Okay, we need to grab third again. And then we've got a sketchy disappearing turn. It sneaks up on you. It looks like the road goes straight, but then it's this one right here. Oops, no, it's not. It's further up. So you come up to the right-hand turn, and the road drops midway through the turn. And that can really throw a person off if they're not aware of it, or simply just going too fast. Here it is right here. Okay, it doesn't drop as much as I thought. There's another one further up the road that does drop, and that's a left-hander when you're riding this direction. But this section here can really get loose out in the open. It's not too bad right now, but in another couple of weeks with more traffic, it'll get more obliterated and turn into more loose dirt. So this really kind of contests the limits of the front tire, the stock front tire. So let's talk about tires for a minute. Tell me what kind of a dual sport bike you have, and if you have a DR-Z4S or 400, and what kind of tires you used to run on any previous dual sport bikes you had, whether it's a DR-Z400 or not, or if you have a DR-Z4S or want to get a DR-Z4S, what kind of tires you think you might go with. I'm looking for suggestions on different tires. I've just been a long time fan of the MT21. That was pretty much the gold standard for the front. And it was the gold standard on the rear for quite a few years too, until Pirelli came out with until Dunlop came out with the D606, and then the 606 rear combined with an MT21 front was the gold standard for the DR-Z community, dating back to the early 2000s. And that's what I've been running on the front of my DR-Z, as well as the two DR-350s that I had prior to my DR-Z. And that's what I had intended to put on this. I have a new one sitting on the shelf in the garage that I ordered specifically for this bike. But maybe it's time to try something new that's still more or less dirt oriented. 99% of the riding that I do with the DR-Z is all in the dirt. And that's the same with this bike. And nowadays there's so many more tire choices available that might surpass the capabilities of the MT21. So drop those down in the comments below. I'm curious to engage in some discussion about tires. We are almost to the fire lookout. Last year, I was ripping through here, going the opposite direction, going faster than I should have been, and a dang deer jumped out in front of me. Scared the holy crap out of me. Ooh. Too early to be yawning.